Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Planning Development Advisory Committee virtual meeting by electronic participation for September 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We'll start with the roll call. Dan Kennedy,
Present.
Dennis O'Connor,
Present.
Paul Sedra,
Present.
and I, Councilor John Sapoulos, I'm present as well. And in attendance, we have our clerk, Courtney Hoyt-Fox, our secretary treasurer, Lynn Banks, and county planning staff, Joanna Salzberg. So, as I mentioned, the roll call, so I'll get into some opening remarks. So welcome. And there are two meetings tonight, one being the Committee of Adjustment, where we'll be looking at two minor variances. And the second would be, we'll adjourn that meeting. Second will be the Planning and Development Advisory Committee, where we are reviewing 4 severance applications for comments to submit to the county's Land Development Committee. Please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you're consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, so we, next item, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Lynn, do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not.
Okay, and gentlemen, do you have any?
No.
No, okay, great, thank you. So let's move into item number 5, approval of minutes of August 9th, 2022. Do you have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Dennis, second by Paul. All in favor? Dan?
In favor.
Dennis?
In favor.
Paul?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. So then we'll move into item 6, applications for minor variance or permission under section 45 of the Planning Act. So the purpose of this hearing is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or express views with respect to a minor variance application before us today. The township requests that you please notify the secretary treasurer of the committee by email at lynnbanks@postlands.ca if you wish to be on record and would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding any particular application. The format of the hearing is as follows. Staff will present the information report, specifically outline the purpose of the application, summarizing compliance with the township's notification submission requirements, and outlining staff comments, agency comments, and public comments of those who could not attend. Then the applicant or agent will present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarification and ask questions and express their views on the proposal. We will have a maximum of 10 minutes to speak. Following this, the members of the committee can likewise obtain clarification, ask questions. Then the item will be taken to the committee, and the committee will deliberate the application and render the decision, and the decision will be subject to a 20-day appeal period. So we're moving into the first item, 6A, minor variance application D13 MCC Jeff and Sharon McClintock, 43 McClintock Drive, concession 1, part lot 4, Township Puslinch, requesting relief of new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from section 4.4, table 4.1, accessory uses, buildings and structures. The purpose and effect of this application is to provide relief from 1, section 4.4, table 4.1, accessory uses, building and structures to permit a height of 6.5 meters or 21 feet 4 inches to the midpoint of roof of a storage shed instead of 5 meters as required. So turn it over to you, Lynn. Would you please summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outlining staff, agency comments and recommendations, as well as any public comments of those who could not attend?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and the following comments were received. Township of Puslinch Fire Services, the Township's Building Department, and Public Works had no concerns. The GRCA has advised that they have no objection to the proposed minor variance application. Information currently available at this office indicates that subject lands contain Puslinch Lake, Little Lake Pond, provincially significant Puslinch Lake Irish Creek Wetland Complex, regulated watercourses, floodplain, slope erosion, slope valley, and the associated regulated allowances to these features. Due to the presence of the above noted features, a portion of the subject lands are regulated by the GRCA under Ontario Regulation 150/06, and any future development or other alteration within the regulated areas on the subject lands will require prior written approval from the GRCA in the form of a permit pursuant to Ontario Regulation 150/06. The storage shed will be built in the same location, which is at the edge of GRCA's regulated allowance to wetland. GRCA staff do not anticipate any negative natural heritage or natural hazard impacts as a result of this storage shed placement, and they have no concerns or objections with this minor variance application. GRCA staff previously approved and issued a permit on May 31st, 2022 for this storage shed replacement, and they should be notified if there are any changes to the plans, and a permit revision may be required. We wish to note that this application may be subject to growth plan policies for key hydrologic features, and suggest that the township or county consider the applicable policies in the review of the application. Sourcewater has stated that since this property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, the application can be screened out, and it does not require Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act.
Good, great, thank you very much. Okay, Courtney, would you please have the owner or applicant join a panelist to present their application and put the appropriate drawing on the screen as well?
Mr. Chair, I moved over Mr. Barry. Oh, sorry, Mr. Barry Billings is the agent. So it looks like he is here with us as a panelist, but he's muted.
Barry, can you hear us?
This is Sharon McClintock here.
Yes.
Barry has obviously put something up on the screen there as to where the shed is located.
Okay, could you, before we start, could you please state your name and address?
Okay, my name is Sharon McClintock. My husband, Jeff McClintock, is with me, and we are at 43 McClintock Drive in Cambridge.
Great, thank you. So let's put,
sorry.
let's present your application. I don't know if you got the Zoom and you can see the screen.
I can, I've been having a hard time trying to keep everything going. I tried to join, now I'm joined, but Barry obviously is putting the,
Hello?
Froze up.
I think we lost her. Oh, you're back.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I must have a bad internet connection. We're having a bad storm here. We're actually in Florida right now, but Barry has on there, I believe it's him, that has the diagram there.
Okay, is he going to speak or will you be speaking?
He's the one that's supposed to be presenting it. I don't know what's going on here. It has me on there right now as him, but I'm not.
Courtney, is there a way to find out if Barry's in the audience?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I actually have two people labeled as Barry Billings. So it looks
Sorry.
like that's okay. So I'm going to move over the other. Sometimes you can join and it has two, like you're joining from two separate devices with the same name. So
Right, that's what happened. He sent me the link, and when I signed on, it showed as Barry Billings, but he's the one that was actually going to do the speaking.
okay, no problem. Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
fair
I'm
enough.
moving the other user over here, and then I'll put the sketch back up.
Great, thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. It's Barry Billings. Thanks for, I wasn't able to communicate or talk because I guess Sharon and I both used the same meeting ID. So this is awesome. Yeah, so.
Very, we can't see you. Do you have a video on?
Here goes the video. There we go. Okay, I'll take myself down. Great.
Okay, Barry,
right.
so could you please state your name and address and then present your application? I don't know if you can see the drawing. If you can, that's great.
Yes, I am able to. My name is Barry Billings. I'm a professional engineer. My company is called Abalone Engineering, and I work at 10 Alpine Street in Cambridge, Ontario. So in early February, March, the McClintocks reached out to me. They have the McClintock Trailer Park and Ski School, fairly famous in the area at Puss Lynch Lake. Part of that operation, they store trailers, boats, golf carts, maintenance equipment in the building on the drawing that's labeled shed, storage shed. It's a 40 by 100 foot building, built roughly in the 70s. We couldn't establish the original construction date, but in January 2022, just this past year, unfortunately, the building burnt down. So when they reached out to me, we took a look at the building. There's footings below grade that we think we can salvage. We're going to excavate and build on the same footprint, but we're going to build a more modern building. It's going to be 2x6 construction. It's going to have a concrete knee wall. It's going to have 1 hour fire rated walls as part of the requirements in the Ontario Building Code, the updated 2012 requirements in the Ontario Building Code. So it's essentially a replacement and modernization, and it'll be a better building. And one of the things to make it really functional for the McClintocks and their operation there is they need additional height, more than you would see in a residential type garage, which that's kind of what the township bylaw is built for, I believe. So we're looking to go to a 6.5 meter average median roof height versus 5 meters. And just for comparison, if this was zoned agricultural, the median roof height would be 7 meters. So, you know, other garages in the country, you'd see it typically at 7 meters. In the city, 5 meters. We're looking for 6.5, which will give Jeff and his Sharon and their operation the height they need to store, particularly in the winter, store all of the items from the campground, personal items from many of the residents, and things like boats and trailers and golf carts. So we've been through the building permit process. We're good to go there. We've reached out to GRCA and done an application for construction, and they've approved that. So we're just really down to the height issue, and that's why we're applying for the minor variance today.
Great, Barry. So it's now the public's opportunity. Courtney, are there any, and Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
Mr. Chair, I did not receive any requests.
Okay, Courtney, would you please canvass the audience, see if there's anybody there who'd like to speak?
Certainly. We do have one call-in listener, so maybe I'll start with the call-in listener. Your phone number ends in 3826. I'm just going to mute you for a moment, and if you can stay silent if you have nothing to comment, but if you do, it's your opportunity. Okay, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear from the call-in listener. If any of the other attendees wish to make any comments, if you could just use the raise your hand feature that's located at the bottom of your screen. I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll turn it over to the committee members. We'll go around the table. Dan, do you have any questions of the presenter?
No, I have no concerns with this.
Okay, Dennis, likewise.
I have no concerns as well.
Paul?
No concerns, thank you.
Okay, all right, and I don't have any concerns as well, so we'll go through the official wording and official voting. So in the matter of Section 45 Planning Act as amended and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, and an application for minor variance requesting relief to permit a height of 21 feet 4 inches or 6.5 meters to the midpoint of the roof of a storage shed instead of 5 meters as required. So the request is either approved, denied, deferred. There are no conditions, so we'll go around the table. Start with you, Dan.
Approve.
Okay, Dennis,
Approve.
Paul,
Approve.
and I approve as well. Okay, that's all we got on this one, and there's nothing else to go forward. It's approved, and that's subject to a 20-day appeal period in case somebody wants to appeal the decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're quite welcome. Okay, we'll move into item 6B, minor variance application. Sorry?
Thank you, John, and committee members.
Okay.
I'll sign off.
Okay, so we'll move into item 6B, minor variance application D13 SUP, John Supple and Deanna Clayworthy, 247 Carter Road, Plan 131, Part Law 2E, Township of Woodlands, requesting relief of new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from section 4.27.1C, outdoor swimming pools. The purpose and effect of this application is to provide relief from section 4.27.1C, outdoor swimming pools to permit existing pool equipment to be 1.22 meters from the lot line instead of 2 meters as requested. Okay, turn it over to you, Lynn. Would you please summarize the application, notification, and submission requirements outlining staff and agency comments and recommendations, as well as public comments of those who could not attend?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met and the following comments were received. The Township of Portsmouth Fire Services, Township Building Department, and our Public Works Department had no concerns. The GRCA stated that they have no objection to the approval of the minor variance application. The subject property does not contain any watercourses, floodplains, shorelines, wetlands, valley slopes, or other environmental features of interest to the GRCA. The property is not subject to Ontario Regulation 150/06, and therefore permission from the GRCA is not required. Source Water has advised that this property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, and the application could be screened out and does not require Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act.
Great, thank you. Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panelists to present their application and put the appropriate drawing up?
Mr. Chair, I don't actually see the applicant in the attendee section, but I have a call-in listener as well as an attendee that doesn't have a name registered. So I'm hoping if it is the unregistered name, if you could just use the raise your hand. Oh. Paul Guest has raised their hand. Lynn, does that coincide with who you have to present this application?
Township staff had confirmed that it was John Supple, but that could have changed since I was notified.
Mr. Chair, I'll move over Paul Guest if you'd like.
Sure, great, thank you.
Good evening. This is Paul Guest from Betts Pools.
Okay, Paul, so you're speaking on behalf of the owner?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So Paul, would you please state your name and address for the record and present the application?
Yeah, I'm Paul Guest from Betts Pools, 5688 Main Street in Stouffville.
Okay, great. So would you just summarize the application? I believe you can see the drawing on the,
Yeah. Yes, we wanted to, sorry, originally we were going to put the pool equipment up by the house and there were problems with the heater and so on. So we moved, we felt that the location of the pool equipment would be best down in the corner of the lot. So we wanted to leave room for the cabana that was going to be constructed. So we put it 1.22 meters from the lot line, and we have plenty of setback from the back, the rear yard lot line. So we're requesting 1.22 meter setback from the side yard.
okay, great, thank you. Lynn, are there any registrants who have requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, I have not received any requests.
Okay, fair enough. Courtney, would you please advise whether there are any attendees watching the hearing would like to provide comments or ask questions regarding this application?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I'll start with the call-in listener again. I'll just give permission to talk if there are any comments. All right, and if there's any attendees that wish to make a comment, you can use the raise your hand feature just located at the bottom of your screen. Mr. Chair, I don't see any hands.
Okay, fair enough. So let's go into the committee and start with you, Dan. Any comments or?
Mr. Guest, the equipment, it's in place now currently?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, I didn't know whether you're gonna move it closer to the fence or not. When I drove by the other day, it was hard to tell whether it was just sitting there and gonna be moved closer or whether that was the 1.22 meters.
Yeah, that's the 1.22. The
Okay, thank you. That's it
All
for
right.
me.
All right, Dennis?
Dan had my question. Thanks.
Fair enough.
I'm good.
Paul?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and I'm good as well. So we'll take it into reading the wording and taking a vote. In a matter of section 45 of the Planning Act as amended and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, an application for minor variance requesting relief to permit existing pool equipment to be 1.22 meters from lot line rather 2 meters as required. So the request is either approved, denied, or deferred. There are no conditions. So we'll go around the table. Dan,
Approve.
Dennis,
Approve.
Paul,
Approve.
and I approve as well. And it's approved and it's subject to a 20-day appeal period.
Thanks very much.
You're quite welcome. Okay, so let's move into other matters. Approval of application for minor variance submission deadline 2023 Committee of Adjustment and Planning and Development Advisory Committee meeting dates. Lynn, you want to walk us through that one, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So these dates are for the meeting for the second Tuesday of every month. I've checked to make sure that there isn't any conflicts as far as holidays and with the county. The dates are pretty close to what we had for this year, so I think we should be good.
Okay, so any comments from anybody? Dan,
No, it works fine for me.
Dennis,
Okay.
Paul?
Looks good, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to approve it. Have a mover and a seconder.
I'll move it.
A move by Dan, second by Dennis. All in favor? Dan,
In favor?
Dennis,
In favor?
Paul?
In favor?
And I'm in favor as well. Okay, next item is the adjournment of the committee adjustment at 7:26 PM. I have a mover and a seconder, moved by Dennis, second by Paul, all in favor, Dan,
In favor?
Dennis,
In favor?
Paul,
In favor?
and I'm in favor as well. Great. Okay, and we'll start with the calling the meeting to order for the Planning and Development Advisory Committee for September 13th, 2022. And go around the table. Dan Kennedy,
Present?
Dennis O'Connor,
Present.
Paul Sedra,
Present.
and I, Councilor John Sepulveda, I'm present as well. And in the background, we have our clerk, Courtney White Fox, and our secretary treasurer, Lynn Banks, and county planning staff person, Joanna Salzberg. So again, there'll be 4 consents for us to review and comment on. And please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting, by electronic means, you're consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, let's go around the table. Linda, will we receive any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
No, Mr. Chair, I did not.
Okay, does anyone have any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
No.
Fair
No.
enough. Okay, so let's move into approval of the minutes of August 9th, 2022. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved
I'll
by
move.
Paul and seconded by Dennis O'Connor. All in favor? Dan,
In favor?
Dennis,
In favor?
Paul,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. So we have no applications for site plan urban design review. We have no zoning bylaw amendments. We're moving into land division. We'll start with 8A, severance application B 107-22, also known as D10-KNA, Dennis and Robert Knapp, Part Lot 15, Concession 10, municipally known as 7738 Mulphy Road East, Township Puslinch. Proposed severance is 0.4 hectares with a 70-meter frontage, vacant land, proposed rural residential use, retained parcels 15.6 hectares with 285-meter frontage, existing proposed agricultural use. So Lynn, I'm going to ask that you present any comments from staff or any conditions that staff are proposing that be put forward to the county.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So the township's fire services and the township's public works department had no concerns. The building department has asked that the confirmation of the septic and the well and their distances to the adjacent property line at 6827 Forestdale Road are confirmed. Other than that, he did not have any concerns with the application from a building code perspective. Regarding the conditions, it will be our 2 standard conditions regarding the payment of the township's consent review and condition clearance fee and the safe access condition.
Thank you. So Courtney, would you please have the agent applicant join a panelist to present their application?
Hello, Jeff Beesman here.
Okay, great, Jeff. Courtney, do you have a drawing we can put up as well?
Can you see that
Okay.
okay, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
If there's any chance you could zoom in a bit, that'd be great. And then pan over to the right. And down. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm Jeff Buseman with Van Harten Surveying, and we're the agent for this application for the Denise and Robert Knapp. The proposal is for severance in the front right corner when you face the property from Maltby Road East. We chose this corner for the severance because it's the only spot really to have a safe entrance. I reviewed that entrance with the road superintendent, and he's insisted that he'll support an entrance provided it's at the very right corner of the property. The other thing affecting the severance is the wetland or possible wetland. There is a wetland on the abutting property to the right that's recognized on GRCA mapping and zoning. There is a chunk of land behind this property. We say possible wetland. When you look at an air photo, it looks like it could be in a wetland, but it's not recognized as such on GRC mapping or on applicable zoning. My suspicion is that that wetland pocket probably did extend at one time across through there, but the driveway for 7752 probably interrupted that wetland connectivity a long time ago. So the configuration of the severance is a little odd, mainly because we want to achieve 0.4 of a hectare and yet achieve some depth as well so that the house can be set back a little bit from the road, and yet honor the 30-meter setback minimum requirement that typically is asked for that possible wetland in the rear. So we also evaluated MDS to barns in the area. There's some barns shown on the sketch, and we found after reviewing the farm data sheets and MDS calculations that all 3 barns are easily met for MDS. And then just to recap too as well, this property is designated as secondary ag where a severance is permitted. And the other typical rules for a severance are met. I'd be happy to answer any questions if people have questions or comments. Thanks.
Okay, just for any attendees who are watching this hearing, if you'd like to give comments or have questions regarding the application, please be advised that they can be heard at the Land Division Committee. So we'll turn it over to our committee members for questions of either the applicant or planning staff. Start with you, Dan.
Jeff, just above the there it says subject to hydro easement. What is that about?
Oh, that's an odd title issue. Sometimes there's a hydro easement somewhere on this property or even on this property prior to it being split up. And it could be for a hydro line far, far removed. So we only feel like we should identify that the property title says that there's an easement, but we know that the easement is not for the hydro line. There's no hydro line in this corner of the severance, so it doesn't affect the severance.
So then is there a sign off or anything required from hydro over this?
No. We're around this many times and it's not an issue.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, Dennis.
No, that was my only other question as well. I'm good.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, and I don't have any questions. We have the 2 standard conditions that staff proposed, and I take it we do not have any other comments to make other than supporting it. So I would suggest that the conditions are and that the committee be advised that we support it. And let's have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Dennis, second by Dan. All in favor? Dan?
In favor.
Dennis?
In favor.
Paul?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Great, so let's move into the second one, 8B. Severance application B110-22, also known as B10 LAN. Robert Land, Part Lot 14, Concession 4, municipally known as 6841 Forestdale Road, Township of Plisslanch. Proposed severance is 53-meter frontage by 76 meters or 0.4 hectares. Vacant land for proposed rural residential use. Retained parcel is 17.2 hectares with 121-meter frontage. Existing proposed residential proposed agriculture use for the existing dwelling and Quonset hat. So, Lynn, would you please indicate the comments that were received, agency comments, as well as the proposed comments by staff for the county?
Certainly. So the township's building, fire and public works had no concerns. After discussion with the county planners and township staff, there are concerns regarding the possibility of noise due to the pits at the location around the property. I'm sure Ms. Salzberg can embellish on this if required. The committee can make the decision and advise land division that it does not support the application and request that it be deferred until a noise study is completed and peer reviewed by the township's, one of the township's noise consultants. We've included that in conditions, so I can read out the draft conditions right now. We have the first two are the standard two, that owners satisfy the requirements and pay the township's consent review and condition clearance fee. Safe access to the proposed several lands can be accommodated to the satisfaction of the township. As part of our discussion, we would like the owner to confirm that the MDS setbacks are met for the severed parcel, and if not, then the owner must achieve zoning conformity for the reduced MDS setbacks to the satisfaction of the township. We'd also like to have the condition that the owner confirm that the retained parcel meets the zoning requirement for the required 120-meter frontage to the satisfaction of the township. There was just a little concern that on the sketch, it shows plus or minus 121 meters. So we just want to confirm that it does meet that minimum 120-meter requirement. We're also going to request that the owner provide a noise study to the satisfaction of the township, that it will be peer reviewed by the township's noise consultant. And as part of that, the owner enters into a development agreement with the township for the purpose of the peer review, and that the owner shall be responsible for the township's third-party costs associated with the peer review of the noise study. And that's it for comments.
Okay, great, thank you. So Courtney, would you please have the agent and owner come forward and make the presentation?
Jeff Buseman here again. So thank you for the presenting the application on the screen. This property is on Forestell Road. The proposed severance is in the corner there, 53 meters wide, 76 meters deep. Based on past surveys that we have in the area, we know that the frontage is just marginally over 120 meters. So we're not concerned with that, and that will be easily proven with a survey when the time comes. So we intentionally set the severance to make it work, so that it would be 0.4 of a hectare, and that there would be at least 120 meters of frontage on the retained parcel. I am not concerned with MDS at all. There's a barn quite a distance away, 485 meters. We rarely, if ever, get a request for having a minimum distance requirement of that high. This subject property at one time had a barn, but that barn was knocked down, I'm thinking a year or two ago. So there's no barn on it right now. The township has requested a noise study. That's a new one for me. I've done many severance applications, as you know, in the township, and a number of them abutting gravel pits. In this case, there's a gravel pit across the road on the north side. There's a berm and a row of trees there now already to hide it. And in addition, that gravel pit exits off of Laird Road and side road 10. So far on the other side. So there's no trucking for that gravel pit on this road. There have been a number of severances granted on Forestell Road here in this stretch over time, all with the same concerns about noise and the activities of the gravel pit. The house on the right there, number 6845, as you face it from this plan, 6845, that was probably approved about 15 years ago, but yet interestingly enough, a relatively new house has been put up there, I'm thinking in the last year or two. There have been a couple of severances also approved on Forestel Road, which are on the south, directly across the road from the same gravel pit. One at, I believe, 6745, and another one at the corner of Forestel and Side Road 12. Both severances were approved without studies, and they were approved by the Land Division Committee, even though there were comments about noise and concerns about that as well. I don't see that being an issue for this property. Other than that, safe entrance is pretty straightforward. It's secondary agriculture. I'd be happy. I think that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, fair enough. So let's turn over to the committee members. Have any questions of the deputant or of planning staff? We'll start with you, Dan.
I guess the one question I would have would be based around the noise study. Is a noise study based on traffic going up and down Forestel Road, or would it be strictly based on gravel pit operations?
I believe that it is being raised only because of the gravel pit operations. So I'd want that study to be distinguished that it doesn't include traffic.
So, we'll ask Joanna if she can clarify.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the noise study in particular would be to look at an assessment from an acoustical engineer generally to look at compliance with the Ministry of Environment noise criteria relative to the actual extractive use, so to the aggregate pit that's across the street, and how that noise would impact the residential development, introducing a new additional sensitive use to Forestel Road. I would note there have been other severances on Forestel Road, and there were similar concerns raised at that time. There was requirements and conditions for including a consent agreement for the township and also noise impact assessments as well for these consents. So this concern has been consistent across these consent applications.
So follow-up question to that would be, has there been complaints from people that have built there in the last few years regarding noise to drive this further?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of any noise complaints at this point, but that's something that planning staff would look into before the Land Division Committee.
All right, thanks. That's it for me.
Dennis, over to you.
Yeah, Jeff, the MDS for the barn, you cannot get the actual what's in that barn? Is that the problem?
No, our experience has been the calculation numbers rarely get over 300 meters. 485, we always meet that test. I mean, if we have to, we'll look up the MDS. I'm going to get the farm data sheet. The other thing that I'm looking at, though, is that we might have the situation of when you have 4 or more houses closer to the barn, then the fourth closest house is the one that counts for MDS. So I think if I look at it quickly, and I don't have an aerial photo to confirm, it kind of looks like we already have, if you count the house on the retained, looks like we have 4 houses that are closer. So then MDS would be technically defined as the distance to the fourth closest house. And we're definitely exceeding that.
That probably should be done and probably should look at what that barn would be like rather than beef cattle with meters. So that would.
Sure, we can take a look. We can take a look at that. I gotta admit, it's getting harder and harder to get the farm data sheets completed by the owners lately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's partly because of don't want anybody on because of biosecurity too.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis, there is a condition there that says that the owner confirm MDS setbacks are met for the separate parcel. If not, the owner must achieve zoning conformance, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's already covered, and
Yes.
means that the onus would be on the applicant to satisfy the conformity. Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify one thing, Joanna. Just you mentioned, I don't have the information. I don't know if you have the data there. You mentioned there's a couple of severances on Forestel, and so to confirm, was there a noise study completed on those? Or yes or no? Like that's what I'm trying to get my head around, because I just want, if we did, then for this one, we should also proceed. But if we recently have done severances on this roads in this vicinity to this gravel pit, and we didn't ask for a noise study, I'm just curious why we're asking for it now.
So through you, Mr. Chair, the noise studies were requested for past severances, and they weren't recent severances. The ones that I had a chance to take a look through were from 2008, and then there were other consents from 2012. And in both of these cases, deferral was recommended for these applications until a noise assessment was completed. There were other conditions associated with ensuring the compatibility of these severances with the aggregate use. So as I had mentioned, there was also conditions for a consent agreement, the noise impact assessment, and then also in some cases, we've seen conditions for zoning compliance so that the requirements of noise assessments could be also included and reflected in a lot if it was approved. So in the past, the noise assessment has been something that's been consistently requested for these severances.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a question. Do we want to put this on title of the property that this is adjacent to a pit operation and could be subject to noise and indicate that a noise study is available? I guess that's a question for you, Joanna.
Mr. Chair, I can speak to that also.
Okay, thank you.
The registry office, I think, would be hesitant. They're very specific as to what they allow to be registered on title. So I don't think this is something that they would approve and would probably most likely send it back as and cancel the registration if you tried to do it.
Have anything to add, Joanna, on that point?
The only item I would add, Mr. Chair, is I think the other option is the zoning compliance condition, which allows any requirements from the noise assessment to be reflected in the zoning on the property, if there are any requirements for noise impact assessment, because then that would be kept track in the zoning itself.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we asked the county to defer consideration of this until there is a noise study done and it's been satisfactorily reviewed by township staff. So, go around the table, see if any have comments on that approach. Dan?
I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I'm just wondering, do we have, what would I say here? Do we have limits of what the noise study would be?
Well, we can clarify that this regarding the aggregate operation, Dan, that would make sense.
sorry. Do we have limits?
Oh, you mean sound level limits? Yeah. well,
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Yeah, you mean the sound level limits, like the ministry has established sound level limits for a pit operation a certain distances away type of thing. So the concern would be those levels exceeded. I believe it says in here I guess it doesn't say that. Lynn, can you clarify that? Because we need to agree, at least say that the sound noise study related to the gravel pit operation in accordance with MTO noise standards.
Mr. Chair, maybe Ms. Salzberg would be better suited to speak to the noise study.
Sure.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I do have an example of a past condition that was used, which was that the owner provides a noise impact assessment addressing Ministry of Environment noise criteria relative to the extractive uses in the area satisfactory to the township.
Okay. How does that sound, Dan?
But where does Yeah, okay, then does the township have limits that they would accept? Or are they just gonna, or are they going to rely on what the acoustic engineering firm says is the limit for that distance with that noise level?
Okay, and it
Or
says-
if peer review comes in.
yeah, that's
guess-
where the peer review comes in. It's, the clause says that the owner provided noise, study to satisfaction township to be peer reviewed by the township's consultant.
Okay. Okay, yep, I can live with
Okay.
that.
Okay, Dennis?
I'm good with that.
Okay, Paul?
I just want to clarify, like with Joanna, just to confirm one more time, like there was no other severances in this vicinity since I think 2012. I just want to, because I drove past and there's a number of, there are newer homes in that vicinity. Like just not one or two, like there's a good amount of homes in that vicinity. I just want to make sure that we're staying consistent, to say the least, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there have been severances to the east of this property, and it looks like, I'm just looking through our mapping layer here that shows the different severances over time. And there were severances to the east in 2005, and then to the west in 2008 and 2012, and to the south in 2007. So it may have been the case of the buildings may not have been constructed immediately, where someone may have severed and then just left a lot vacant until construction occurred.
And they all required a noise impact study.
So the two that I had pulled from 2008 and 2012 did require the noise impact study. Depending on the date of when extraction began across the street, some of the older consents may not have required it, but the ones that I had pulled did request the noise impact study.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I guess, Paul, to add, we certainly don't want the township being liable, saying we
Yeah,
didn't have any comments or concerns on this particular severance, and then whoever buys the property says, well, you never told me this, and
Mhm.
I want you to buy it back, type of thing. So we don't want to get into that issue.
Mhm.
It's similar to MDS calculation type of thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
makes sense.
Jeff, I
Thanks.
understand. I see you have your hand up, so let you comment.
A couple of questions, maybe through you, Mr. Chair, maybe to Joanna.
No, I think the time for that will be at the county, so if you have any comments to make sure, but not questions of staff.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
Mr.
Okay,
Chair, I
so-
do, Mr. Chair, I do
Go ahead.
note that there is an attendee who's got their hand up.
okay, and so we mentioned that there's any attendees watching the hearing and like to give comments or questions regarding the application. Advising that their comments can be heard at the Land Division Committee, and certainly don't. This item is for us to provide comments to the Land Division Committee, and a person who has his hand up can do so at the Land Division Committee, provide their own separate comments. Okay, so let's move forward on this. So Lynn, can we capture what Joanna suggested in the way of wording for that particular noise study?
Yeah, I certainly can. What wording, Ms. Salzberg, would you like to add to the condition?
So
Well,
Lynn,
I think we're in favor of what her wording says as opposed to what we have here. It's a little more clear.
Okay, yeah, Ms. Salzberg, if you can just email that to me, I will put it in the comments. I'll make the change.
Can you read it again, Joanna, for the benefit of everybody here?
yeah, so the condition that had previously been used was that the owner provide a noise impact assessment addressing the Ministry of Environment noise criteria relative to the extractive uses in the area satisfactory to the township.
Okay. Okay, so I would just tag on satisfactory township to be peer reviewed by the township's consultant. And that further, the township of Portsmouth file with the Secretary Treasurer of the Plan and Land Division Committee a letter of clearance for this condition. So I agree with what you said, Joanna, just tagged on those few clauses that you have in there. So the next question is, do we want to ask that the application be deferred until such time as the noise study is completed? We can put that condition in, or that request in, and just go around the table. Dan?
I would agree with that.
Okay, Dennis?
I agree with that.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah,
Okay, so I agree with that. So Lynn, can you put that in there as well, that we ask that the application be deferred until the satisfactory completion of the noise study and satisfactory completion and peer review of the noise study?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have that in the committee's comments, just above the conditions, that the committee does not support the application and requests that it be deferred until a noise study is completed and provided to the township and peer reviewed as listed in the conditions below.
Okay.
That way,
fair
if they
enough.
do approve it, we've still got the noise study requirements that will have to be met.
Okay, fair enough. So we start, we have the conditions, we have the financial conditions, we have the safe entrance conditions, we have the setback conditions, and we have the 120-meter condition, and then we have the noise study we just read. And then we have that the owner enters in development agreement with the township for the purpose of peer review of the noise study. And the owner shall be responsible for township's third-party costs associated peer review of the study. And further, township of Portsmouth file with the Secretary, Treasurer, Plan and Land Division Committee a letter of clearance for this condition. So we've got a lot here. Does anybody want these reread, or are we satisfied with going around the table with a motion to approve and second?
I'm good.
Okay.
Hey, Mayor.
Okay. We're good. Okay, so may I have a motion to accept and second? Dennis, second.
Okay.
Okay, so it's approval of the submission of the comments as well as what we put forward. So go around the table. Dan?
Sorry, what was that again, Mr.
We're
Chair?
going around the table, so for approval of the comments.
Yeah, I
Dennis?
approve. I approve.
Great, thank you. Dennis?
I approve.
Okay, Paul?
approve.
And I approve as well. Okay, so that's that one. Let's move on to next item, which is service application B112-22, also known as B10, the CHR, Donna and James Christie, Part Lot 20, Concession 4, municipally known as 4652, Sidewalk 20 North, Township of Portsmouth. Proposed severance is 60-meter frontage by 70 meters, so 0.42 hectares. Vacant land for proposed rural residential use. Retained parcel is 6.7 hectares with 168-meter frontage. Existing and proposed agricultural use with existing dwelling and barn. So Lynn, would you please summarize the agency comments received as well as the comments proposed by staff for the as comments?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. For township comments, the township's building department, fire services and public works had no concerns with the application. As far as conditions that we're proposing. Give me just one moment, please. So it will be the township's standard 2 conditions regarding clearance, payment of the township's clearance and consent fee. That the requirement for safe access. And there will be a condition that the owner obtains zoning conformity for the reduced MDS setbacks if required for all barns that are located near the property to the satisfaction of the township. And also that the owner enter into an agreement with the township for the purpose of submitting a tree preservation plan for the proposed severed parcel, which is to be peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township and the county of Wellington, and the owner shall be responsible for all township costs associated with the peer review.
Great, okay. Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join a panelist and present the application as well as putting up appropriate drawing?
Hi, Jeff Beesman here again at Van Hartens, representing the owners, the Christies. We've taken a long look at this severance. There was at one time actually going to be considered a house built on this corner of the property. You can see a bit of an open area, and if you look at aerial images, you'll see an open area where one could possibly build a house as well. There's a driveway leading up to that open spot. We've taken a long, hard look at MDS, taken measurements to barns, completed the farm data sheets, and based on reviewing this with county staff, planning staff, and considering this a type A scenario, we found that MDS is met to all the relevant barns. And there's 3 barns, one to the north, one to the south on the retained parcel, and then a chicken barn much further south yet to the south as well. It meets the criteria for a severance in terms of secondary ag, and only one severance from after March 2005. The existing entrance is a safe entrance, and I'd say it meets all the criteria for a severance. I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Great. I'll just repeat again, if there's any attendees watching this hearing would like to give comments or questions regarding the application, I'll advise that your comments can be heard at the Land Division Committee meeting. So we'll go around the table. We'll start with you, Dan. Any comments, questions?
No, I feel I'm okay with this.
Dennis?
Okay as well.
Okay, Paul?
I'm good.
And I'm good as well. So the comments as or conditions as reported by staff, we have 4: the financial, the safe access, the zoning conformity with any MDS1 calculations, and that the owner enter into an agreement for a tree preservation program. It's got to be peer reviewed, and the any costs associated with that will be covered by the applicant. So may I have a mover and a seconder?
I can move it.
Moved by Dan, second by Dennis. All in favor? Dan?
In favor?
Dennis?
In favor?
Paul?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. So let's move on to the last one. Severance application B112-22, also known as D10 REI, Lillian Alexander Reinfels, part lot 19, concession Gore, municipally known as 6975 concession 1, township Puslinch. Proposed severance is 70-meter frontage by 75 meters or 0.5 hectares. Vacant land for proposed rural residential use. Retained parcel is 37.7 hectares with 341-meter frontage. Existing and proposed agriculture use for existing dwelling, horse run-in, and old log cabin. So Lynn, would you please state any agency comments as well as review any conditions that township staff have provided?
Certainly. The township's fire services and public works department have no concerns, and the township's building department would just like to confirm the location of the septic and well and their distances to the adjacent property line at 6959 concession 1. Otherwise, they have no concerns with the consent application from a building code perspective. As far as conditions, it will be the township standard 2 regarding payment of the township's consent, reviewing condition clearance fee, safe access. We request that the owner obtain zoning compliance for the retained parcel to the satisfaction of the township, and also that the owner obtain zoning conformity for the severed parcel for the reduced MDS setbacks to the satisfaction of the township. Now, we'll explain that third one that I read regarding the zoning compliance for the retained parcel. We're not, what we would like to do is just have our chief building official attend at the property to look at the log cabin and just confirm that the kitchen has been removed, and then provide us that he's satisfied. and we can clear that condition.
Okay, great. Thanks. So Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panelists and to present the application and put up an appropriate drawing? I see it's Jeff again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and committee members. So this application is for severance in the top left-hand corner of the parcel as you see it oriented on the screen right now. Severance of 0.5 of a hectare. It'll be the same depth as the property to the west. Just an interesting note, that property to the west, but even though it has a brand new house, just knowing that we've been involved in that property as well, it was created a long time ago, and actually relatively small, and finally was built on just in the last year or two. All the requirements for severance are there and are met. The one exception possibly is what we're saying is the MDS to the barn at 6955. The barn is actually unoccupied, has been unoccupied for a long time. We did obtain a farm data sheet and went through some variations of evaluation on what the MDS value should be, depending on if you evaluate by barn size or potentially feed 50 beef cattle as the owner suggested, or 10 horses as the owner suggested as alternate possible uses. Every one of those comes up with a different minimum number of meters. So based on building size, the minimum is 178 meters based on 50 cattle. So just to be clear, I'm just going to step back a sec. The barn size is about 350 square meters. The MDS calculates and assumes then that it can hold 38 cows in that scenario and have the minimum of 178 meters. The owner suggested there's a possibility of 50 beef cattle, which then the minimum would be 196, or a barn could be used for 10 horses, which then the MDS minimum is 108. So MDS is never a simple, easy thing to figure out. So right now, I think we've landed on, we should be using 178 as the minimum distance. And so we will be seeking a minor variance for the distance to that barn because it's actually 150 meters. Otherwise, everything else is there for severance and the requirements are met. I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments that the committee members may have.
Okay, so again, I'll reiterate that if there's any attendees watching the hearing, like to give comments or have questions regarding the application, would you, I'm advising you that your comments can be heard at the Land Division Committee meeting. Okay, so let's turn it over to the members of the committee. We'll start with you, Dan.
No, I'm okay with this, but it'll be interesting to hear from Dennis on it.
Okay, Dennis, over to you.
Again, you really need to go into the barn and see what's there, but it'll come up when you try to get a variance for the MDS. But Nutri-Management specialists can walk into that barn and tell you what it's been set for and what the livestock should be, right? So I guess we'll defer it to when you try to get the MDS variance. So.
Okay, fair enough. Paul?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and just a question for Joanna. Do you have experts who can go into barns and quickly look and assess the situation, what it's set up for, or do you rely on the worst case scenario?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there are different methods that we use to assess a barn. So we use the farm data sheets that are submitted. Sometimes we request pictures of the barns, and we also do sometimes a worst case scenario measurement based off of the size of the barn that they have. The MDS guiding document does have different measures that you can use to look at what the MDS setback is. The general recommended method is through the farm data sheets to get confirmation from the owner of what could fit within a barn, but there are other methods that we use to confirm. Typically, we don't have someone go out and assess. We do follow the requirements of that particular guidebook to take a look, and then sometimes do request pictures as well.
Okay, fair enough. So let's see, there's no other comments, and the conditions that staff have put in is a standard financial clause, the safe access clause, zoning conformity for MDS 1, and zoning compliance for the retained parcel. And it's regarding the cabinets on the property. So there's no further questions. We'll just ask for a mover and a seconder. I have a mover and a seconder
I can move it.
to approve the comments as submitted. Dan, second by Dennis. All in favor? Dan,
In favor.
Dennis,
In favor.
Paul,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. So let's move on through the agenda. Other matters, none. There's no closed meeting, and the next meeting is set for Tuesday, October 11th, 7 p.m. And just a clarification, Lynn, do you have any information what will be on the agenda likely?
I do, Mr. Chair. Actually, we don't have any minor variances for that meeting date, and we only have 3 consents for the committee to comment on.
Great, thank you. So last time is adjourn the meeting. I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting at 8:12 p.m. Moved by
Move it.
Paul, second by Dan. All in favor? Dan,
In favor.
Dennis,
In favor.
Paul,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Great, thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good night.
we can-
Good night.
Good night.